Hello, 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 everyone. Welcome back to another Train the Trainer peer-to-peer support series. We have selected 5 HBCU cohort grantees that have been awarded the campus grant in order to facilitate peer mentorship that resonates in real time. Each of our experienced grantees will be providing you all with an analysis of what has been working and some things that they found a little bit challenging. But whatever each HBCU speaks on today, their experience is their own, right? And so we'll be tackling our individual campus observations, and hopefully it resonates for many. But before we get into, all of our questions, I'd like to introduce myself and my guests. So my name is Araba Adua Powell. I'm the HBCU specialist at Ujima Inc., and we help to oversee the campus grant. And I'm joined here today with Dr. Jure, and I'll let her introduce herself. And Dr. Jure, I'd love for you to tell us about your position, what you do in your role. And I know that Spelman is kind of growing in this department. And so if you want to speak to that as well, you can do so.
Absolutely. So good afternoon, evening, whenever you're watching this. My name is Jure Mazik. I'm the Director of Title IX and Compliance at Spelman College. And very interestingly, I'm probably doing this with you all today because we actually just hired a project director who would normally be the one doing this, but I'm definitely delighted to do it because the work still has to go on. And so we had an opening from March to now. The new person comes in October, but I definitely wanted to be a part of this and explain some of the things we've been doing here at Spelman. But I've definitely been in the field for a long time, definitely working on investigations regarding Title IX, any kind of sexual assault, dating violence, domestic violence, stalking, sexual harassment, etc. Doing a lot of prevention work and assistance advocacy. So really connected to the work and very passionate about the work as well.
Awesome. Thank you for the introduction. All right. So I'm excited for today's conversation. I don't know about you, but Spelman is a well-respected and well-revered HBCU. And so we're so excited to talk to you. And I know that current and prospective grantees will be able to learn a lot. So our first question for you is, what has been your experience with campus programming during your current grant cycle? And have you been able to co-collaborate with any particular organization? So just speak to that experience if you could.
Absolutely, sure. So this cycle, we're really adjusting, like most people. I don't want to call it post-COVID because we know it still exists, but we're definitely adjusting with the departure of as I mentioned, our project director having to push programs forward. It's been difficult, but we definitely are connected and committed to the work. So what we've been doing is still providing a lot of our programming through our grant. So the first thing we have is Daniel Jones, and she does a lot of she provides a lot of resources for our students. So we'll have resources, we'll have different types of workshops, support groups, things like that. She's doing some social media stuff for us this year. And we're just excited to continue that work. We just got approval. So I'm saying that very specifically because if you have not gotten approval for your work, make sure you do that in advance. But we just are working on getting approval for our peer educators. A lot of programming we're doing around dating violence, domestic violence awareness month. And we're really just moving forward with the project. This is our second installment, so a lot of foundation has been made in with this grant, and so we get to build upon what we started, and that's really exciting. Again, we have a new hire, so I'm looking forward to actually turning this over and letting someone thrive with the program. But we are doing a lot of different things. We were able to do a resource fair virtual during the pandemic. We were able to have our partners come in and do a session on temporary protective orders because we know with our population, our students may experience this and we want to empower them and not feel like they don't have those resources available for them. So we have a couple things lined up that we want to do this semester as well. Many of you have heard of In Her Shoes. We did some sort of adaptation and doing In Their Shoes to be inclusive and talk about domestic violence awareness, dating violence awareness. And then Paint the Street Red, one of our campaigns where we're looking at red flags in relationships and unhealthy relationships. And we're trying to partner with others in the AUCC with a program called Flag on the Play. This gives us an opportunity to do like this football simulation or a homecoming to talk about dating violence, domestic violence, and stalking, and just meet students in our campus population where they are, so that we're not just giving out lectures and talking at people, but really engaging in our campus community.
Nice. Awesome. It sounds like you guys have a lot of good things in the works. And so, you kind of touched on a few things there, and thinking about all the programming you have coming up, I think this is a great question to ask. So we know we're kind of coming out of the pandemic, right? So I don't know if it's safe to say we're in a post-COVID era just yet, but things are starting to look a little bit better. So our question to you would be, what does outreach and engagement look like for you? And how have you been able to navigate post-COVID? Like, what are some of your plans you have to address any areas of struggle?
Yeah, as I mentioned, we had to get really creative. And so we still do some hybrid programming because some people aren't as comfortable being in a space with others. Many people are still getting ill. So we want to make sure that people still get the information. So we're doing some hybrid programming where we'll do in person and then have the virtual option there. We are outside, like people were saying. So we are out and about, tabling a lot, getting to connect with our campus community, hearing what our population has to say. So a lot of tabling. When I say a lot of tabling, especially because many of us here are new. Again, I told you we lost some staff in the beginning of the year. So we have only one existing staff member who's been here. So our job is to really get out there and connect with our community through our tabling, boosting our social media, engaging with students and campus community that way. And then collaboration. I need to say that like with exclamation marks, like we have to collaborate. So we're collaborating with student organizations, with faculty and staff, with other partners in the AUCC. So for us, it's really identifying ways to do it. So whether we mask up in the space, we ask people if they're comfortable. So for example, we were out tabling yesterday and many of our students had on masks. Some didn't, some did, but it's really trying to be safe in this space, but also identifying that yes, you're right. People are out and about, and we want to make sure that we're out there as well so that they know the resources available for them. They know how to intervene. We're doing a lot of bystander intervention workshops and training because we're not out there with our students when they're out and about. And so we want to make sure they are comfortable being able to respond and do something if they see something as well.
Awesome. Awesome. Those are some great pieces that you've just touched on there. All right. So for this next question, I want you to be as honest as possible. This is a space to learn, to grow, and to make everyone aware of realistically what resources are needed to be the best that we can be in this work. So, what are some things you wish you knew before becoming a grantee, and how would you advise incoming grantees?
Well, you all, this quickly know my story. So I came in and I was like, oh my gosh, wait, what? I need to do the grant as well. And so I was like, all right, well, the first thing was, okay, how do I navigate just grants? Okay, so let's all just take a deep breath. It's not really counterintuitive. It's actually counterintuitive. It's like it's one of those things where it should make sense, but you're like, and so I try my best not to inundate, the project coordinator or the project director, this Lati, and she's been, when I say amazing, she's been amazing. So she'll probably get tired of me, but I'm like, how do I do? How do I do? The good thing is that all the resources are there. So it just takes some time to read through. But just grants is definitely one of the things, having to navigate that. And as I mentioned earlier, making sure you get approval. So yeah, you can have all these great ideas, but don't just do them because they won't count. And so those, that's definitely one of the things I knew, get everything approved beforehand. It's so crucial. because again, your initiatives are going to help your campus community, but because you have a grant, you want to make sure that you are complying with the grant and receiving the funding needed to do the work. I will say definitely read through everything, go through any kind of workshop training that's available, because that part is really helpful. And don't be afraid to just, like I said, click on, some sort of, they have resources in Just Grants where you can click on and kind of show you how to do everything. And don't be afraid to ask. That's what, the project managers are there for, to be able to answer those questions if you have them, and just be as open as possible so that you're not doing the work for nothing, really.
Yeah, yeah. You mentioned, your different interactions with OVW. We love Lottie. And some of the difficulties in real time that you can come across in overseeing this campus grant. And so thank
Mhm.
you for sharing about that. But while we speak about our interactions with OVW, we know that a lot of program objectives are dependent upon OVW standards. But we're really interested in learning about what frameworks did you specifically use in order to execute some of these initiatives?
Sure. So for us, definitely sticking with some of the standards there with OVW, but we also looked at Larry Cohen's spectrum of prevention to guide sexual assault prevention. So for us, it was important to look at that because we wanted to see how prevention works and if you can, and how we're doing it at the micro and macro level. And so we really, when we're planning stuff out, we're looking primarily at the micro level until we can get to that macro level, because oftentimes people want to get to the macro first. I need to change policy immediately. Well, first of all, you have to build relationships. You have to identify the needs of your campus. You have to then be able to connect and then start connecting with your off-campus resources as well. And then from there, once you build those relationships, then you can start working on macro, which is your policy, your laws, just really changing, shifting the culture. Our theme this year is shifting the atmosphere, because we know that sexual assault, sexual violence, it's a larger societal issue. So for us, it's going, all right, how do we do this in a way that's impactful? So that we're really intentional about the work we do and we start to see progress in that area. So we definitely look at Larry Cohen's spectrum of prevention. We really are looking at, as a foundation, One Love Foundation's training framework. And so they'll do a lot of facilitators training where they give you all the resources for free because they're a nonprofit organization, but it allows us to look at dating violence in a way that provides us with information that talks to students right now, whether it's social media, whether, that hashtag relationship goal thing that's going on and continues to perpetuate, and then trying to figure out how we get out of those unhealthy relationships, even though the pressure to stay in because everyone wants to make their relationship look a particular way. So we definitely use the One Love Foundation. And one of the things I was talking about recently was just, we know a lot with the prevention frameworks, they don't really include Black women, women of color. And so we're really looking at a lot of research around that. I've been able to pull some articles to be able to get some feedback from participants, particularly Black women who went through a lot of prevention programs and gave feedback on what should be changed. So it's a lot more impactful for our communities. Because again, the ones I talked about before, although they have a human perspective, oftentimes a white woman perspective, it will not include the perspective and experience of the Black woman.
Yeah, that's awesome. You spoke on a few good things there. I really loved how you kind of, touched on getting getting to the micro before getting to the macro, right? That's so important. And also how Black women are often left out of research, out of frameworks. And so being intentional about considering these things when doing this work is crucial. And so that is a great segue to our next question, and you may be able to expand upon this if possible, but we're really interested in learning what are some of the gaps in education you've been able to identify or observe on your campus, and how do you plan to address some of those gaps? So like mentioning how Black women are often left out in work is one of the gaps,
Mhm.
I feel like. Is there anything else, and how do you plan to address those gaps?
That's the biggest one that we are faced with right now because we want to do the work and we are doing it. But oftentimes we find that we have to adjust all of the frameworks to include elements for us, whether we're doing LGBTQ plus awareness and prevention. We then have to go, okay, what does that mean for Black LGBTQ plus? What does that mean for Black women? What does that mean for Black, and so we have to continue to do additional research to fill in those gaps, and that's problematic. So I would say I'll give you the name of the study that I was talking about, but it's Nikita Kurinantin and Jessica Harris. And what they do is they looked at 44 they actually looked at the perceptions of campus sexual assault programming and its impact. So that's definitely helpful. They looked at about 44 women and really got the experience of women of color as it relates to that. And so that's really important. One of the things I will tell you that's been helpful too, and I don't want to sound like I'm brown nosing here for lack of a better term, but you all have great resources. So just being able to pull up some of your information about Black women, prevention, that's been really helpful for us as well to kind of help fill in those gaps. Because again, we're constantly researching and looking for information for our population.
Yeah, that's awesome. It's awesome. Yeah, and so uh when it comes to community response and advocacy, what are some of the trends you've noticed specifically on your campus? Have you maybe focused on one particular area more than others? Can you speak to that by any means?
Uh, well, I will tell you this for the grant, you're required to have specific areas, 10% here, 5, 20, however you break it down. So we definitely make time for each area. We find that our students need resources and support mainly around sexual assault. We've seen some, dating violence, domestic violence, stalking for sure. But sexual assault, as I said earlier, is a larger societal issue, and our institution is not exempt from it. So we find that many of our students are coming in for resources around sexual assault. And with that, we know for sure we're trying to not only use the grant funding, but any other funding we can find to continue to do the work to prevent and support those who are victims of sexual assault as well.
Okay, nice, good. Well, with all this being said, we've heard about programming, we've heard about strategies that you guys have been working on, and we've heard about so many good things that are going on in Spelman underneath this campus grant. But one thing that we have to talk about is sustainability, right? How do we, sustain these systems and ensure that what we're doing is being continued in order to maximize our efforts? So what does sustainability look like for you and on your campus?
Well, I will say, I'm really proud to say that Spelman has actually hardwired this position. So once we're done with the grant, we will have this hardwired position to do all the work this project director is doing. And for me, that is the epitome of sustainability. That means that we are committed to the work. And we're going to go beyond the grant. And yeah, I don't know if that's one of the reasons why. I'm sure it was that, many times when you're applying for a grant, they know that this money is temporary and that you are actually committed. Your institution is committed to the work. And we're committed to keeping our campus safe, conducive to that successful college experience that doesn't include sexual violence or stalking, et cetera. And so we are continuing to do the work. We're continuing to research on areas that need it, looking at funding for certain things we know we need, and to be able to actually implement on our campus. So for example, we have an entire health clinic, and the health clinic is amazing. One of the things it does not have is a SANE nurse. And so we are trying to figure out ways, how do we get a SANE nurse on our campus? Because we did some tours of our local rape centers, and some are either too far for our students, and the closest ones are just right in the middle of like an ER. And it's just, right in the middle of Atlanta, downtown. It's not the safest. And so for us, it's going, how do we provide these resources on our campus and continue the work? So we are constantly out there. Like I said, Spelman is committed to, to sustainability and the work we're doing. And we're just continuing to grow the work we're doing, the positions. We're excited about it.
Nice. Awesome. Great. Great. Well, Dr. Jeray, it has been awesome speaking with you. I've learned a lot. I know that everyone watching will learn a lot as well. There's so many great takeaways. Would really love to end on a great note. So we want to ask you, what has been your biggest moment of pride?
Hmm. Well, I haven't been here that long, but I will say, let me think. There's quite a few things that we've been doing here, and I would say training our campus partners to assist our students, providing a safe space for them, like making sure everybody's on board and equipped to actually respond to our students so they're not re-victimized when they report, and hearing like the language. So I just got here, so I'm like, whoa, they already know that they're not supposed to do this or they should do that. And that makes me really proud to say our campus is committed to the work. Another thing is we've been able to work with Live Safe Resources to provide a 24-hour hotline so that, any time of day students call, they know that they have somebody on the other end who's going to provide them with the resource and support they need regarding their issue. And most recently, we were able to connect with Men Stopping Violence for us, because what that means is that we can work with that organization, the Title IX coordinator in the prevention areas, and on the other campuses to figure out how the work goes beyond just our Spelman gates to keep our students safe once they leave beyond the gate. So we're really proud of the work we're doing here.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, congratulations on everything you guys have been
Thank
doing and accomplishing, and also on expanding your team as well.
you.
But this is a great conversation. So we thank you once again for joining. And for
Mhm.
those who are watching at home, we hope that you've been able to learn a lot. And we're excited for our incoming grantees as well. But thank you guys, and until next time.